If you're watching this right now, there's a reason. Somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a question you can't ignore. When is my Social Security check coming, and will it be enough? This isn't just another government update. This is about your rent, your groceries, your prescriptions, and your peace of mind. February 2026 is not just another month on the calendar. For millions of Americans, it's a financial pressure point. For retirees, disabled workers, survivors, and low-income households, Social Security is not extra money. It is the foundation. It's what keeps the lights on. It's what puts food on the table for your family. And when payments shift, even by a single day, it can cause stress, confusion, and real financial consequences. That's why this video matters, and why you need to watch every second. Right now, Americans are dealing with rising prices, unpredictable bills, and a system that feels harder to navigate every year. And February adds another layer of complexity. It's a shorter month. It has different payment timing. And in 2026, some payments arrive earlier than expected, while others follow a precise schedule that many people don't fully understand. If you've ever checked your bank account first thing in the morning hoping to see that deposit, if you've ever worried about overdraft fees or late notices, if you've ever asked yourself whether Social Security will still be there when you need it most, this video is speaking directly to you. Today, we're breaking down the exact February 2026 Social Security payment schedule for SSA retirement, SSDI, and SSI in simple language, step by step. No confusing jargon, no guessing. Just clear answers you can use to plan your month and protect your wallet. And here's the important part. What you don't know can cost you. Payment timing affects budgeting, bill payments, and even eligibility for other assistance programs. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when your money is coming and how to prepare if something changes. So take a breath, stay with me, because this isn't just news. This is your money, and February 2026 is closer than you think. Why? February 2026 is different, and why it matters. February is never just another month when it comes to Social Security. It's shorter, it moves faster, and in 2026, it brings payment timing shifts that can catch families off guard if they're not prepared. When you rely on Social Security, even a small change in timing can feel like the rug being pulled out from under you. Here's the reality. The Social Security Administration doesn't randomly send payments. Every check follows a strict calendar based on program type and birth date. But when weekends and federal rules collide, especially in February, payments can arrive earlier or feel delayed, even when nothing is technically wrong. For millions of Americans on SSI, February 2026 is especially important. SSI payments are scheduled for the first of the month, but February 1st, 2026 falls on a Sunday. That means your payment doesn't arrive on February 1st. Instead, it's sent earlier, at the end of January. For families living month to month, this can be dangerous if they don't plan carefully. That money has to last longer. For retirees and SSDI recipients, the Wednesday payment system remains in place, but knowing which Wednesday is yours makes all the difference. Miss that detail, and you might think your check is late when it's actually right on time. This is where anxiety sets in. People panic, phones light up, SSA offices get flooded with calls, and families start worrying unnecessarily, or worse, make financial decisions based on incorrect assumptions. That's why understanding February's schedule isn't optional. It's protection, it's preparation, and it's power. Another reason February matters? Post-holiday financial strain. By the time February rolls around, many households are still recovering from winter heating costs, medical expenses, and rising food prices. A mistimed bill payment or misunderstanding about deposit dates can trigger overdrafts, late fees, or missed essentials. And let's be honest, the system doesn't always explain itself clearly. Notices are confusing, online accounts aren't always updated instantly, and when you're stressed about money, clarity matters more than ever. That's why we're breaking everything down slowly and clearly in this video. No assumptions, no shortcuts, just the truth about how February 2026 works, and how you can stay one step ahead instead of reacting at the last minute. Because when it comes to Social Security, knowledge is financial survival. SSI payments, the early deposit most people miss. If you receive supplemental security income, this section may be the most important part of this entire video for you and your family. SSI follows a different rule than other Social Security programs, and February 2026 is a perfect example of why paying attention matters. SSI is normally paid on the first day of each month. Simple, right? But here's where things change. When the first falls on a weekend or federal holiday, the payment is sent on the last business day before it. And in February 2026, the first day of the month lands on a Sunday. That means your February SSI payment is scheduled to arrive on Friday, January 30th, 2026. Let that sink in. Your February money arrives in January. For many people, this feels like a bonus at first, but it's not extra money. It's the same payment, just sent early. And if you don't budget carefully, you can find yourself short later in February, wondering where your next deposit is. This is where families get caught off guard every single year. They spend the money thinking another check is coming in February. And then February comes and goes with no SSI deposit. That's not a mistake. That's how the system works. This matters because SSI recipients often live on extremely tight budgets. That payment covers essentials like rent, utilities, medication, and food. Stretching one payment over a longer period takes planning, and no one tells you that clearly enough. If you're caring for a child, a disabled family member, or an elderly parent on SSI, you need to plan now. Mark your calendar, adjust your bill timing, and understand that February will feel longer financially, even though it's shorter on the calendar. The good news? Knowing this in advance gives you control. You can plan your expenses, you can avoid panic, and you can protect your wallet from unnecessary stress. This is exactly why staying informed matters. and why so many people rely on updates like this. Retirement benefits. Your Wednesday matters. If you receive Social Security retirement benefits, your February 2026 payment depends on one simple but critical detail: your birthday. The SSA uses a staggered Wednesday system, and knowing which Wednesday is yours can save you a lot of unnecessary worry. Here's how it works. If your birthday falls between the 1st and 10th, your payment arrives on the 2nd Wednesday. If your birthday falls between the 11th and 20th, your payment arrives on the 3rd Wednesday. If your birthday falls between the 21st and 31st, your payment arrives on the 4th Wednesday. In February 2026, those Wednesdays fall neatly within the month. But that doesn't mean people won't panic if they're checking too early. This system exists to spread out payments and reduce strain on banks and processing systems. It doesn't change your benefit amount, just the timing. But here's where stress comes in. If you're used to seeing your money around the same time every month and forget which group you're in, February can feel unpredictable. And when bills are due, uncertainty feels personal. That's why it's so important to align your financial planning with your specific payment week. Automatic payments, rent, utilities, everything should work with your Social Security schedule, not against it. And remember, if your payment doesn't show up at midnight, that doesn't mean something's wrong. Banks process deposits at different times throughout the day. Understanding the schedule isn't just helpful, it's empowering. SSDI payments. Same system, different pressures for Americans receiving Social Security disability insurance. February 2026 follows the same Wednesday structure, but the financial pressure often feels heavier. SSDI recipients frequently face medical expenses, limited workability, and rising costs that leave little room for error. Just like retirement benefits, SSDI payments are sent based on your birth date. The timing rules are the same, but the impact is often more intense. When your SSDI check is late by even a day, it can affect prescriptions, appointments, transportation, and basic needs. That's why knowing your February payment date ahead of time is critical. There is no special delay for SSDI in February 2026, but shorter months can create confusion. If you're counting days instead of Wednesdays, it's easy to assume something's wrong. This is why awareness is everything. What if your check is late? Don't panic yet. One of the biggest fears Americans have every month is waking up, checking their account, and seeing nothing. Before panic sets in, it's important to understand how SSA defines a late payment. The SSA advises waiting 3 full business days after your scheduled date before reporting a missing payment. Weekends and bank processing times matter. Most delays are not permanent problems. They're timing issues. But knowing the rule keeps you calm and prepared. Direct deposit versus paper checks. Timing differences. If you still receive a paper check, February can feel even more uncertain. Mail delays, weather, and processing can add days. Direct deposit remains the fastest and safest option. And understanding the difference matters more in shorter months. Budgeting for February. How to stretch your check. February requires smarter planning. Short month, same bills. This is where awareness turns into action. Knowing your exact deposit date helps you stretch your money further and avoid unnecessary fees. Why staying informed is financial self-defense. The system won't slow down for you. Prices won't wait. But information gives you leverage. Staying updated isn't optional anymore. It's protection. The biggest mistakes Americans make every February, and how to avoid them. Every single year, the same mistakes happen, and they hit the hardest in February. Not because Americans aren't smart, but because the system is complicated, rushed, and poorly explained. And when you're living on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, one small mistake can snowball into a financial emergency. The first mistake? Assuming every month works the same. February does not. It's shorter, payments feel closer together or farther apart. And for SSI recipients, money shows up early, which creates the illusion of extra income when there is none. That misunderstanding alone causes thousands of households to overspend in late January and panic in mid-February. The second mistake is relying on memory instead of dates. Many people say, my check usually comes around this time. But around isn't good enough when bills are exact. Rent doesn't accept estimates. Utilities don't care about assumptions. Your calendar must match SSA's calendar, not your habits. Another costly mistake is waiting too long to act if something feels wrong. People assume delays will fix themselves until late fees hit, prescriptions are missed, or accounts overdraft. Knowing when to wait and when to call SSA protects your money and your mental health. Then there's the mistake of ignoring how banks process deposits. Even if SSA sends the money on time, your bank may post it later in the day. That delay isn't a denial, but if you don't know that, stress takes over fast. And finally, the most dangerous mistake of all, tuning out updates because they feel overwhelming. Many Americans stop paying attention because the system feels exhausting. But not knowing doesn't protect you. It exposes you. February 2026 rewards people who prepare, not people who guess. Avoiding these mistakes isn't about being perfect. It's about being informed. And that's exactly why videos like this exist. What Social Security doesn't always tell you, but you need to know there's something most Americans don't realize until it's too late. Social Security assumes you already understand the system. Notices are short, language is formal, and critical details are often buried in fine print or spread across multiple sources. For example, SSA rarely emphasizes how early SSI payments can stretch your budget thinner. They don't explain how bank posting times differ, and they certainly don't walk you through how payment timing can affect other benefits like SNAP, housing assistance, or utility programs. If your SSI payment arrives early at the end of January, it may temporarily raise your bank balance, and that can confuse automated systems tied to eligibility. Understanding timing helps you avoid accidental problems that were never your fault. Another thing SSA doesn't clearly explain: missing payments don't always mean errors. Sometimes it's a calendar issue. Sometimes it's a processing delay. And sometimes, it's a paperwork update that hasn't been communicated clearly yet. That's why staying informed outside of official notices is essential. You can't rely on one letter or one portal update to give you the full picture. And here's the uncomfortable truth. SSA is overwhelmed. That doesn't make them careless, but it does mean you must be your own advocate. Knowing schedules, rules, and timing gives you leverage when something goes wrong. Information isn't just helpful, it's defensive. It keeps you from being blindsided. It keeps you from blaming yourself for system quirks. And it keeps you financially steady when everything else feels uncertain. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Why this channel matters for your future. Let's be real for a moment. Social Security isn't just a check, it's security. Or at least, it's supposed to be. But in today's economy, that security depends on information, preparation, and timing. February 2026 is one example. But it's not the last challenge coming your way. The system will continue to change. Payment schedules will shift, rules will evolve, and costs will keep rising. The people who suffer most aren't the ones who ask questions. They're the ones who don't know what's happening until it's too late. This channel exists for one reason, to keep you ahead instead of behind. Every update you watch, every schedule you understand, every warning you hear before it hits your wallet, that's power, that's peace of mind, that's protection for you and your family. If this video helped you understand February 2026 even a little better, imagine what staying connected can do over time. Imagine never being surprised by a payment again. Imagine budgeting with confidence instead of fear. That's why subscribing matters. Not for clicks, not for hype, but because your financial future deserves attention. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay with us. Because your money, your benefits, and your future are worth fighting for.